You're listening to the B&H Photography Podcast. For over 40 years, B&H has been the professional source for photography, video, audio, and more. For your favorite gear, news, and reviews, visit us at bnh.com or download the B&H app to your iPhone or Android device. Now here's your host, Alan Weitz.
Greetings and welcome to the B&H Photography Podcast. Today's topic is collaborations, specifically the collaborative dynamics between photographers and models in the workday world of beauty and fashion photography. Michael Sanders started in London in the 90s, shooting for legendary British fashion magazines, including The Face, ID, and Arena. He's a regular contributor to Italian Elle magazine, and his work can also be found in the international editions of Vogue, Glamour, and Marie Claire. And in the June issue of US Elle, look for a series he shot with model Hailey Baldwin on the beaches of St. Lucia. We have the copy right here. On the table.
Hot off the press.
Hot off the presses. The ink was dripping off his hands. Based on her accent, I'd say Jayne Moore is from Canarsie or maybe Bensonhurst, Brooklyn, I'm not sure. It's different from Michael's Greenpoint brogue. Okay, Jayne is a native of Hampshire, England, and is represented by IMG models. Okay, so I'm getting into the flow of this. Okay. She has appeared in ads for DKNY, Gilly Hicks, Calvin Klein, and L'Oreal, and in magazines such as Cosmopolitan, Marie Claire, and Elle. She's worked with photographers such as Annie Leibovitz, Dean Isidro, Pamela Hansen, and of course, Michael Sanders. Jayne is also a jewelry designer and runs her own business, Thorn of an English Rose. And like many of our guests on previous episodes, she has also studied at SVA. I'm a grad too.
Nice.
Welcome, guys.
Thank you so much for having us.
What's your definition of a good model?
That's a very good question. I think we should appropriately define our terms. I think a fashion model, a beauty model, a model working within the fashion industry is someone, he, she, or other, who represents the fashion in the magazine, the campaign, and tries to embody, characterize, and narrate the story that the advertiser or the magazine wants to say.
So is there a fashion shoot without a model?
There are fashion shoots without models, yes. There are loads of still life sort of beauty accessory shoots. But usually a human element is fun, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I think other human beings relate quite well to that.
And what about you? You'd kind of mentioned beauty and fashion. Can you distinguish or can you guys point to distinctions between a model that would work for a beauty shoot or a fashion shoot?
I think
is there something
technically beauty is above the
neck?
Above the
shoulders?
Maybe even above the torso, actually, because
Yeah.
there's all that
Like
sort
jewelry
and
yeah.
skincare products and sun cream
Right.
and all of that stuff that would allow for
Hair,
whole bodies, naked bodies, skin, and all of that stuff.
And have you done both? And
I have actually, yeah.
and how would you describe what you need to do? How do you approach one compared to
Jayne, can I just say before you get into it,
course.
how beautiful you look today,
Oh,
guys?
Yes.
Would you not concur?
Yes. And you look lovely
yeah.
also.
Thank you so
Mike,
much.
you really do. Seriously.
That's so lovely of you.
I'm not sure. It might be the headsets. I'm not sure.
You're glowing. You're glowing in this
I'm
light.
wearing my hunter boots, and it's just you like them, huh?
I do.
Feels like home.
I'm a sucker for wellies.
All right. I don't even know why we're here. Let's get on.
Wait, I'm looking up wellies. Hold on.
It's a rubber boot. It's a rubber boot.
Really. Is there a difference? Yes, there is. I would say fashion. It's funny, actually, because fashion generally is more high energy or editorial because you are bringing a sense of energy, unless they want something very static and stagnant, which is difficult in its own right, actually. Fashion, you're moving, you're bringing a lot of life, bringing energy and animation to the clothes. Beauty tends to be a lot more still and static, and you've got a much narrower field to work in. That can actually be harder sometimes, because sometimes you're going for and I'm swizzling around in my chair now, but the over the shoulder, because you're showing a bit of the dewy skin and this. And if you're doing that for a long time, especially when it used to be film, I'm showing my age, but you could get I remember doing a job for Revlon forever ago, and it was such a great technically easy job, but I was looking over one shoulder and giving like heavy side eye for the whole day, and I felt like I need to like spend the rest of the train ride looking the other way.
To balance out.
Because so they have
Crick
different
neck,
challenges.
I think it's called crick neck.
Beauty tends to have an intensity, and you're working much kind of closer, more intimately. So it is a very different feel.
So getting back to this idea of the clothes and fashion and moving with them and making the clothes, is that always what you're thinking about as a photographer and as a model, how the clothes are appearing?
Yeah, I think
for sure.
it always starts with the clothes. It always starts with the job in hand, which is selling the clothes, and finding someone who can best embody that and show them off to their best aspect.
Yeah.
Really. And whether that's a cool girl or a elegant girl or a young girl, there are obviously there's a whole world out there of subtle differentiation.
You keep saying, you say that it's the clothing.
That's the job.
That's the job, and it is. However, when you talk about what it is, you always talk about who is in the clothing.
Well,
that's the human
Right?
aspect. Yes.
Yeah.
But I mean, clothing's so enormously powerful, and I think that's why fashion is and always will be so important. If I walked in here this morning with a ball gown or a suit or a pretty dress, your immediate response to me or assumptions about me it was very instinctual, without meaning to. That is something we project in how we dress. Like, I am looking a little bit like a farmer today. So I shoved a suit jacket on there. So at least it looked like chic farmer. But it's pretty powerful. And I think it's true with a client as well. When I'm going to meet a client, if I know what they want, I'll look them up. I'll see kind of what their vibe is. If I know they're looking for like grungy, street and cool, that's how I'll turn up to the casting, because that's what they're looking for, and you have to be able to bring that to life. If they're wanting something very ladylike, very feminine, that's how I'll show up. I'll show my more womanly side. And it's the same thing when you're on set. You know, if you're wearing a pair of wide leg slouchy pants with like kicks and big pockets, and you've got to have this like urban street style, you have to bring that, and the clothes will show that, but your energy and how you're working it is really what's going to carry them off.
Well, something you just mentioned, that you do your homework. You look your client up and say, who are they? What do they do? Do you ever get this kind of information from the agency that calls you saying, hey, we just got a call, we want you to go down? Did they feed any of this to you?
They'll give you as much as they have. You'd be surprised sometimes just how little is known, especially in the realm of like confidentiality. If a client's working on kind of a new concept or doing something kind of cool, they won't want to give too much away. Right. Especially now everything's like documented on social media too. But you'll often know the photographer that's behind the project, who you're meeting in terms of like client or casting office, and the company. So I'll often have a Google. I did one recently, and they had about 9 companies under their belt, and they were such a vast spectrum. And I'm like, oh my god, who am I in this? Like, so I kind of had to pick a team. I was like, all right, I'm guessing that I fit into this box and this box, so I'm gonna go rock in that look.
Just gonna wear something gold, something new, something blue, or something blue.
Precisely.
And in the sense of the photographer, when you first meet the model, how do you tell that she or he will be able to do that with the clothes, that they're going to bring something more than just you know, a pretty face, et cetera, et cetera?
Well, before actually meeting the model, you're aware, I am aware already of what the fashion editor wants to do, what the theme of the shoot is for that particular issue. So I have all of that already in mind. And the casting process is the most exciting in a sense when you get it right, or you feel that there's someone that you can be inspired by to make it happen for you. So I will go online, and I will go on models.com, and I will also perhaps even have an idea of the kind of girl already in my head. So I would have all of this photographic reference in terms of the model's book online or on models.com, or I'll then go to her
Agency
Instagram
page.
account. Forget the agency. For direct immediate access of who that girl is. You always go to Instagram nowadays, because
it's unfiltered.
It's totally unfiltered. This is the girl in her own life.
And how aware are you of that, Instagram being more than just...
It's huge.
Yeah.
It's huge. It's something that I kind of had to... At first I was like, nah, I didn't have a Facebook forever. And I was like, no, I'm really not into this. But now I know a lot, like clients would book me purely off my Instagram, or they'd be like, they'd show references. They'd have references on the board when we walked in, like makeup references and hair references and style, clothing. And it would all be from my Instagram. And so that's when I was kind of like, all right, I mean, I'm still no expert at it. It's really hard.
And you self-curate that. I mean, you do that yourself, right?
Yeah, it is. And it's almost like a full-time business. And that's really hard because, I mean, I know couples that nail it and they go on holiday together and the whole holiday is a photo shoot. I like to down tools. I like to really lose my phone and just like switch off. And I don't think you can do that as much anymore. You got to be kind of documenting everything. And that's pretty demanding, but it's so important.
And do you think about how you're going to blend in some professional shoots with your personal stuff too to keep it
I try and keep a balance.
And that's not even touching on the importance of the following that Instagram is all about, and models getting booked on jobs purely on numbers, and it's very obvious why. I mean, there's an audience and people are fans of models like never before in that way.
Let's jump back to where you were before. I didn't mean to cut you off about this, the process as you go through it.
Yes, that's right. Yeah. Okay, so what will typically happen for an L shoot is I will get a call or an email from the fashion editor who will say, we're going to do this about white shirts and whatever. It can be whatever, literally. And maybe the idea of a location to go with it. So you have the location, you have the mood, and then really it's up to me and them to do the casting. And Italianelle primarily have a casting director who they talk to. But I also do my own homework, and ultimately I think the magazine defer to the photographer. Because at the end of the day, we're the ones who have to make it happen on the day. And it can all be made or broken in that respect. It's very important, if you possibly can, to actually meet the person. So you have all of this, you have all the Instagram stuff, and you even have videos today on Instagram because people are doing Instagram Live. So you have a really quite fleshed out sense of who these people are, human beings are in their own lives. But meeting one-on-one in the flesh, there's no substitute really for that, because you can have nasty sorts of surprises on shoots sometimes, and there's a lot of money put into them. They're on location, often very far-flung places, and the model gets off the plane, and then there's that moment of anticipation when you're going to meet in the foyer of the hotel or at dinner or whatever. And really, if you haven't met before, it's, what's she going to look like? Is she going to be great? And there's a huge sense of relief when you have met the person and you have the feeling that everything's going to be okay.
What percentage of your assignment work these days do you already have working experience with the model, the key model at least? And for you, what percentage of the photographers are photographers that you've already have a good working relationship with? This isn't even an issue anymore. Or you know how to manage it if it is.
Well, fashion's all about the here and now. So models are always changing. That's the excitement. That's the fun of my job anyway, is that there's a new season, there's the turn of the page, and there are new designers, new designs, and new faces. Always a complete deluge of new, fresh faces to be inspired by for that particular season. Fashion is about the here and now. It's about imagining the future. It's about that sort of dialectic between what's cool now and what's cool tomorrow and where you are at a given moment.
So you're often working with somebody that you've never worked with before,
you like
or
to.
maybe even never met.
So for me, I'd say it's kind of 50-50. I'd say I've got photographers that pull me into a lot of jobs just because they know what I bring, and they'll know the client and be like, oh yeah, I've worked with Jayne a bunch, she'll be great for this job. So I have kind of those regulars, and that's always nice because you form this sense of family.
That's true.
And you know what they're about. And there's also photographers that I work with quite a bit because the clients like both of us and I don't gel with. And I'm just kind of like, I know how this is gonna, it's never bad, but I'll be like, okay, we've got a different synchronicity, or we've just got a different sense of humor, and you just kind of know what's going to come. And then, like you say, there's other jobs where it's you going in blind, especially when you're working with foreign clients, and you really have no idea what to expect. And you're right, there is that moment of like, how is this going to go?
But to go back to what Jayne just said, there is a comfort and there is a huge satisfaction if you have developed a really successful working relationship with a model, and you've done it many times before, that all of the anxiety is taken away, and then you get to know the person and you think, oh yes, she'd be great for this, and then you can enjoy it each time and deepen that and add colors to it and then play with what can we do this time.
It becomes a lot more fun, actually.
That's probably actually more satisfying than the quicker thrill of the brand new.
So let's talk about the go-sees. Is that what they're called when you first meet a model?
Yes.
And you don't always get that opportunity, I guess.
No, you don't. And let's talk about why you wouldn't.
Okay.
You probably wouldn't. I try, but often the model is not even in the country. Or the model's on a job elsewhere. So she's physically unable to be there because they work a lot. But also, there's the idea of status. And if a model is well known enough, it's like an actor in Hollywood. They don't all read.
Need to go for the casting.
They don't all have to audition because obviously we want them, and it's a given due to their status and popularity and fame and all the rest of it that you would want to work with them because they're a proven.
And that's all arranged to some degree before it even comes to you from the client, the agency. They say, well, she may be available for this, and you say, okay, let's get her because
yes, exactly, because you want her.
Right.
I mean, you want her. You want her because she's known. You want her because you're excited by her because she's known. You want her because she's hot. She's, that's how it works. So you take what you're given at that point, and
but
you're
again,
happy
that's
for it.
changed a little bit because I was talking about this with a couple of girlfriends recently. Once upon a time, you would get to a city and your agency would literally have go-sees lined up for you because you were usually out of town, and this photographer and this photographer and this photographer wants to meet you, and this magazine's been asking about you. So you spend a couple of days like seeing everybody just to like make these introductions because you're going to be out and bouncing around again, and it's those that used to have a follow-up for later. And now it's very, very different. Now there's less go-sees, I would say, than ever before because there's more models than ever before. And a lot of clients and photographers are inundated by lesser-known girls that agencies are really trying to get in everywhere or trying to wiggle themselves in. It's a new space. And now a lot more is done on social media. So again, it comes back around to the importance of Instagram. Like now a photographer can't meet a girl because she's away. Instagram's his go-to, watches her stories. Where is she? What's she doing? All right, she's looking good. Her skin's looking great. She's shooting for this. Oh, she just walked this run,
How does Instagram, if I may just ask, we're coming to Instagram a lot here now, and you are represented by an agency. Now you're being approached by clients and photographers through your efforts in Instagram, but it's still you're connected to your agency. Is there a compensation for that stuff, or is it still being basically that you are part of the agency and regardless of how the job came to you?
Yeah, I'm part of the agency regardless. If someone reaches out to me on Instagram, I'll always defer them to my agency. Maybe because I'm old school, but also I've got a lot of respect for IMG. IMG protect me as a brand. They protect me as a company. They have my best interest. They are responsible for negotiating my rate, making sure I'm taken care of, the legitimacy of the client. So they'll do all the back end. They'll do the research. They'll be booking my flights. I want that taken care of. That's why I pay them a percentage. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
The second it's you on your own, I think you leave yourself wide open for a lot of risky things that could happen. There's only so much research you can do. You're less protected. You don't have a huge corporation behind you with all their legal support and intelligence, really. So for me, I wouldn't go rogue, but a lot of girls are. A lot of girls are making money.
So essentially Instagram is just an advanced form of handing out a business
card. It's a live
card.
portfolio, yeah.
That's it.
It's a living portfolio.
And it's great, good for everybody, basically.
Okay. And to kind of follow up on Alan's question to some degree, what percentage of the shoots have you met the model beforehand? Not even worked prior, but just even met?
Probably 75% haven't met.
Haven't met. Oh, okay.
Really? Wow.
Really? Yeah, nowadays.
Yeah.
And for all the reasons we just outlined.
So then what does that first meeting, the go see, provide to you?
Okay, when you get the go see, and are we seeing that this might be a bit of a thing of the past? It could very well be the end of that type of thing, although...
It's sad. I think it'll always have some sort of power.
Yeah, and there's nothing like the human contact of actually
This is
meeting
kind of what
a
I want to
person.
get at. I mean, doesn't the collaboration start kind of at that moment?
It really can
should,
do.
Anyway. Or what
It
can
does.
what
It
can you
does.
glean from the interaction? Even the way you walk and as we were talking about the clothes before and how someone might move with the clothes or
Yes.
at least have the understanding.
And forget about the clothes for a second. Just about being human animals,
Right.
meeting, greeting, and going on that human dance of two people assessing each other's
It's
energy
so important.
and vibe, and
Work ethic
whether
and
whether
everything
you
else,
like
right?
them. I
Yeah.
mean, it's like the usual. Very subtle cues that human beings have.
Yeah, absolutely.
And how sophisticated that mechanism is.
So can either of you speak to or remember a time where it all seemed like it was great and then you had that sit down and like, this is not going to work?
It's pretty immediate, actually, when you walk in and you meet somebody. It's that human, you know, when you meet a friend's friend or a colleague, you get this kind of like, either stickiness of like, something's off here, or a rudeness, or there's that immediate banter and you get this back and forth and you're like, oh yeah, this person's cool. One thing I will say, and you might be surprised this doesn't happen more, but advice to any photographers that are doing castings and go-sees, get a camera out. I'm amazed when I meet clients and they don't take photos. I'm always like, how and why? This is absurd. Get a girl in front of the camera, because that's where I come to life. Like, you know, you can meet me
even at that go see, even at a simple meeting like that.
Absolutely. You know, I can meet you and we can have any kind of back and forth and banter. But I've worked with other models. They're freaking gorgeous. They come to set and you're like, wow. Getting the clothes, amazing. They're like wet fish on or dead fish on set. They don't move. They don't have an animation. They don't know how to carry their body. They don't know how to work with another model. And I'm always like, how did it come to that? Like, just stick a girl in front of a wall and take some shots and just see how she moves, see how she uses her angle, see how she uses her resources. Give her a stool, give her like the edge of a wall and just see like how she comes to life. And I'm always surprised when it doesn't happen.
And do you do that?
I tend not. I'm forgetful generally.
That's interesting.
But because I'm so involved in getting to know them a bit more deeply, as is my want. So I'm going for the other stuff because you have all of the pictures that they've taken that you've seen on their book and you've seen in their Instagram account. So I'm really at that point going, well, is she, what kind of girl is she? And do I like her? And I think the photographer has to bear responsibility always on set and then before and at any time for defining and sort of leading the way in how things go. I think a lot of times it's the relaxed the relaxed approach of the photographer. If the photographer is nice and open and
determines the vibe of the
charming
of the set and the shoot,
and lovely like me, then already there's a kind of, you've broken all sorts of barriers down to begin with. And you can start to have a bit more fun.
If you're on a big shoot and there's, you know, the agency and the clients and the creatives and all the crew, it's the photographer that determines that vibe. Is that true to say?
I think it is. But again, everyone, let's stress this for your listeners, that everyone is an individual. We're all incredibly different in infinite ways. So what works for one person might not work for another. You know, someone like Stephen Meisel, the great Stephen Meisel, is very controlled. And you know, there were all these sort of, I don't know if they were urban myths, but this, you didn't look at Steve and you didn't get eye contact.
It's like Alan.
Yes, that he shrouded him, like you, Alan, a bit diva. He shrouded his
I actually
set.
have mirrored sunglasses. They're mirrored on the inside.
That he created this for himself, a sort of protective cocoon. Which was very effective. If you're a shy person, and let's face it, photographers are like other human beings too. I have two mottos. Photographers are humans, and models are humans too. You know? And I think it's whatever works for you, whatever strategies, whatever coping mechanisms, whatever gifts that you're pushing or problems that you're trying to hide, to make it all work in a working situation, because this is a very professional environment at the end of the day.
But it's, interestingly enough, it's made up of people who happen to be hyper everything. Okay,
The fashion people tend to be a bit different.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You
Which
know,
They're like everybody else, only more so. How's that?
Yes, exactly. We're all weird. We're all weird in our own ways.
It's actually one of my favorite things about working on set is the dynamics of characters that you get. I mean, one thing I will say, and massive credit to photographers, I would say that they're the buffer between the client's vision, the art director's way of working and their vision, and then the model. And I've seen it done wrong and I've seen it done really right, where I'm like, oh, God bless you. Because they're the one that's got to take this message and translate it on set. And a photographer can bring a girl to life or really shut her down. And it's very much, and I'm sure we'll touch on this later, but it's very much on how they talk to you, how they encourage you, just the rhythm that you get into. If a client is coming back with harsh feedback, like, you know what, she just isn't like looking good in that jacket, maybe we should move her to a different outfit. If that's delivered to the model and you insert that little realm of, oh, something's up, something's wrong, someone's not happy, it can mess with the kilter, it can mess with the energy. So the photographer is really so powerful and, you know, needs to respect that power of how they can translate the message and keep the momentum.
And is it always photographer to model? I mean, would you ever go through, I don't know, the agent if they're on set, or the creative director or somebody to give direction?
No time for that.
If you're far away, then there's sometimes runners in between.
Right,
I mean,
and
I worked
production
with
assistants.
Annie Leibovitz and it was very cool. We were in Grand Central at night. And she was like high up on, you know, with the steps mount, and she was up there behind, and I think they were shooting in film. So, I mean, there was people with megaphones because we were like at the other end, but there was about 10 people that message went through. So sometimes you can't be so personable.
There were two things I want to talk about that I think are really important for any aspiring models, and that's to sort of try to define what makes a good model. And over all of these years that I've been working, for me, it really just does boil down to, at its essence, a willingness to give of yourself. Because ultimately,
Like an actor,
the
obviously.
model gives. The model makes the picture. I always think that the model has the real power on the set, because she gives or doesn't give. And so a willingness, the kind of personality that is enthusiastic to give. People pleasers, I mean, I'm a people pleaser too. I want to give my client a great picture. I want to do well for my magazine or whoever. I want to do the best job I possibly can. But I think the model has to want to be part of that process and have to really care to the degree that she will keep giving.
Yeah.
And it's her spirit, it's her energy, it's her body, soul, the whole package, in an effort just to give. And that's if they're giving, if that's their basic sort of MO in life, then they will do much better than those who aren't, or who are a bit more ego-based. You have to be willing, like great actors, to take risks, to be relaxed, to be funny, to be ridiculous, not to be afraid of being a fool, not to have that self-consciousness.
To get out of your comfort zone.
Get out of your comfort zone, but all in this greater desire to give of yourself.
Yeah. You're a chameleon. It's like, what is the vision? What can we create? All right, I'm going to run with that. And it's not even about you anymore. It's literally about, I mean, you're always bringing something of yourself. That's obviously a given. But it's how you can adapt to it, how you can create this image. It's pretty exciting.
So for young models out there, because I don't believe agencies tell models what modeling is and what the job entails. So I think it's up to themselves to glean over years of experience what that is. But I'm telling you now, to save all of that time, give. Enjoy giving. If you don't like giving, if you're a bit mean with your energy, if you're a bit ego-bound, then maybe it's not for you. I mean, you don't want to be taken advantage of. You don't want to be put in compromising situations. But that basic fundamental wanting to give of yourself, have a go, right?
And creating, owning the project as your own. Yeah.
Do you have any problems? I'm sure there are times when there's an outfit, a dress, or whatever it is that you look and you go, oh my God, that's horrific. Are you able to get past that and still be yourself and give life to this thing which you wouldn't be caught dead in otherwise?
Yeah, absolutely. Of course it happens. I mean, sometimes it's just something I would never wear, but I can recognize that it's cool. And then I'm like, all right, let's step into that character. And that character is usually pretty fun. I love it when people push me into categories that I don't, I'm blonde-haired, blue-eyed, quite classic looking. I love it when I get something like urban streetwear or like a slick black eye and like grungy beat
So
down.
then you coal miner.
Love that. Love the coal miner chic because I own it and it's cool. It's like a different element of myself and I really, really like that. Sometimes when you're shooting something really bizarro, you just do you, pretend you're really not wearing it
Just
at
think
all.
of what you could do with the money once you cash that check.
You just put yourself in your own clothing in a way and just bring you. And it comes alive. It's amazing. It's amazing how many things you look at and you're like, what? And then you see them on and you're like, all right, that worked.
And the basic principle is the same, because if you're a giver, you realize that the problem is that this is a bit of an ugly or bland or whatever outfit. And therefore, you're responsible for making that alive.
Making it work.
Making it work and wanting to
But
make it work.
How do you get that sense that a model can do that in a first meeting or, in order to
There is
to
a
build
slight
it?
leap of faith, obviously.
yeah.
But again, you have the body of work that she's already created.
That's why I say get a camera
talk to
out
other
there
people.
because I've seen girls with amazing books. Or like if I get a call sheet and there's other models on the list, I'll check them out, see who they are. And sometimes I'm like, wow, like their book, it's killer. And then on set, I don't understand. I don't understand how those shots
got
happened.
made. But it doesn't really matter at the end of the day
Because you
because
just need that one shot.
the freaking shot got made.
Sure.
True.
And I think the greatest models are the ones who are able to solve those problems of making that dress look freaking great. Make a great picture as quickly and efficiently as possible, please.
See, I would say the greatest photographer is the one that can pull it out of a girl because it's a two-way tango.
So it's a collaborative. It really,
is,
really is.
100%.
Which is what we're
It is a
going
bit
to
of a
There's a lot of
tango.
dig
acting
into a
going
little
on
more
here.
in the second half.
You talk a lot about what you bring to the table. And at the end of the day, the garment, as beautiful or bland as it might be, is an inanimate object. And your job is to bring life to it and to make it come alive. And that's through a form of acting. And I'm thinking even a form of dance in a way, because it's movement, because you have to move your body to show off the facets and attributes of whatever this garment is. How many models have dance experience?
I don't know a number in regards to dance experience, but I would say dancing is huge. It just teaches an understanding of movement. It teaches an understanding of like body parts. One feedback I get consistently from photographers, they're like, wow, you know your body so well.
Yeah.
You know, when a hand's not showing or when your fingers are doing, strange things. There's a lot that is always happening and a photographer is always scanning. Not only is the clothing working the way he wants it to work, not only is the lighting got to be on point, but you've got to watch all these things that can happen.
Hands are hard, aren't they? What do you do with your hands if you don't
Right,
have them
and that's one thing ballet teaches you. Your hands are enormous. They are never not the focus. Your hands don't get to slack. Any form of contemporary ballet. And so I look back now and I'm like, thank God I had that.
Over and above all of that stuff that dance teaches you in the body facet, it also teaches you a sense of discipline and work ethic. A good example is that on the last shoot that I did with Hailey Baldwin, she had grown up doing a lot of dance. And so that actually was the point, the jump-off point for the inspiration for the kind of pictures that I wanted to do with her physically, to use that physical prowess. There's a picture, a double-page spread where she's doing a back bend on the beach. It's not something that everybody can do, but someone who's done gymnastics and dance has that flexibility, that strength. And above all, with Hailey, it was the ability to do it again and again and again. Not that many times, because I'm really fast, but the ability to have the stamina, the chi energy that having a dancer's cellular makeup of being able to work teaches you. And the lack of ego involved, again. So I give Hailey all the props in the world.
Do photographers' personalities change when they have a camera in front of them?
I don't think personality changes so much. I mean, all of us click into business mode and then ease off a little bit. You know, you get the person at lunch or whatever when you're just shooting the shit. You kind of get that personality. But on set, it's just that professional side of themselves. And I would say it is a continuation. Very rarely do I meet someone off set, think they're really cool, get on set, and I'm like, oh my goodness, who is this? So I would say the personality is pretty consistent.
Can I talk about the difficulty in taking pictures? The fact that once a camera comes out, as with documentary reportage photography, once there's that element brought into real life, things change. And you can have a model who's incredibly at ease and living so brilliantly, and you're so excited because at lunch she's so full of life and personality and character. And then it's time to take the picture, and here we are now, and it's all lit and all ready, and it goes away.
But isn't that job description number one for a model, to be able to be somewhat comfortable?
Again, they're not taught. No one's taught
exactly.
this.
That's what you kind of touched on there. There is no CV, and there's no interview, and there's no like enrollment for this job. You just are one day a model.
And a young person.
Often very young, yeah.
Often, 100%, you know, almost 99% that you're a very young person in the world doing this professional job with adults, amongst adults, with lots of responsibility for the first time.
Yeah.
Did you have someone when you were very young that taught you, showed you the ropes, gave you some ideas?
I think I was very lucky for several reasons. One, I started working pretty young. I was just work hungry.
How old were you when you started?
14.
Is that too young?
No, I don't think so. I want my kids to be working at 14. I mean, I'll put them to work at 12 if they're willing.
10,000 hours. 10,000 hours, guys.
B&H has a B&H hire, so if you're...
Perfect.
But not everyone. not everyone's a Jayne.
Well,
I mean, Jayne was
that's
ready.
what I'm saying. I was lucky. I was used to working with adults. My brother's a lot older, so all that communication stuff, that was not a challenge. I was also catalogue mad. I loved my catalogues. I collected them like fashion magazines because they were free and they came through the door. And I would literally cut out my favorite models, and I loved them. So I think I learned a lot by just absorbing what they were doing right. And I think a lot of models can learn from the greats. The greats of now, you know, I'm not so much. I mean, of course, now it's a different generation, but like Anya Rubik, who I referenced in our interview that we did before, but she's just incredible chameleon of a model. She always brings something of herself, but she's just like so powerful in her stance, and she just gets it right. So find your favorite girls and kind of learn from them. Dance obviously helped too. So I was lucky that when I got the ball rolling, I felt like I got it very quickly. But there are
having
people,
a camera brought out didn't freeze you up initially, or what Michael was kind of referring to in the sense?
Well, the funny thing about that, and my friends do laugh at it, is if a camera's brought out in a social environment, it can actually, and I can take terrible pictures with my friends when we're out and about. Like, I would be pulling the strangest faces. And they're like, you're a model, how are you getting this wrong? But something about on set, it's different. It's like, it's not even me anymore. It's not really personal. I guess that's where you say ego is taken out of the equation, because it's very much like the model me, and I'm very comfortable with that. And actually, that's the side of me that I really like. But there are girls that aren't natural models. They can be breathtakingly beautiful, and therefore they will sell, and therefore this is a great vocation for them to be in. But then a photographer is going to have to work a lot harder to get that out of her. And again, that's why I think kind of go-sees and meeting girls are probably quite important. But
yeah, it's important. It's a difficult thing for the photographer as well. I mean, just in the fact that the physical aspect of holding a DSLR, big bloody Canon, whatever, in front of your face when you're actually trying to communicate is a huge impediment, right? So at the moment it's all supposed to be happening, your face is obstructed from the model. She can't see you. She can barely hear you.
And you're also thinking about everything else that's going on.
You're
set,
trying to
lighting,
focus.
Yeah, I mean,
you're in multi-mode.
I'm all for Canon's the new dual pixel autofocus thing that will just follow a face around, so you don't have to do that. It's one less thing to do. We'll talk about those technical aspects maybe, but yeah, the general difficulty of here we are now in this fashion time to take the picture, and how do you keep living as if you were just offset? And where does the living start and stop? Just because we're here and there's a camera involved, it shouldn't. And I think the great models don't see that walled off area. Now I'm a model. Now I'm a civilian or whatever. Now I'm in my real life. That they're able to live all the time, even with the camera on them.
Okay, we're going to take a short break, inhale some fresh oxygen, and be back with Michael Sanders and Jayne Moore talking about collaboration on set between photographers and models. Stay tuned.
We hope you're enjoying this edition of the B&H Photography Podcast. Send us a tweet at BHPhotoVideo, #BHPhotoPodcast.
We are back, and a big question now. What is beauty?
Now I would say the spectrum of beauty is so vast, and people like this kind of, quirk, the buck teeth, the gap in the teeth, the wide nose, the heavy freckles. And I love that. I mean, it's funny because it's actually a double-edged sword, because ironically, as a model, I can be hindered by being too classic now. Like, I'm very, very classic. I'm the all-American looking girl. I've got big blue eyes, blonde hair, and not that quirky. So I have gone for jobs and they've been like, you're a little bit too classic.
How do you describe different kinds of beauty? I mean, and when you're working with a model or working with an agency, or you're trying to get somebody, and what descriptions do you use that are acceptable?
I guess in fashion we have all of this insider kind of references that if you're talking to an editor, you'll refer to a model type. Like an Anya Rubik, who Jayne mentioned, is a particular very sort of, French. I would describe her as a sort of French chic, modern girl. There's a kind of modern edge to her, and she makes it look cool, but at the same time being quite classic in a way. So she runs that fine line between edgy and beautiful, classic, beautiful girl.
So words like classic, edgy,
they will say
exotic,
actually very much what they think they want. And I sometimes love seeing these things come through on like a casting or even a call sheet. I mean, I love it when jobs will say, come looking immaculate with clean hair, little makeup, wholesome, quintessential, happy so-and-so girl. I laugh with those descriptions. I'm like, great, let's do that then. Let's be happy, wholesome, and quintessential today. But people can be very, very literal, like, great skin, essential, full lips. I've seen it all written on call sheets. So I think it's just...
And will you not go to a casting based on descriptions?
My agency will choose who to send the casting to based on that description. So if I'm getting the casting, then I've already kind of fit their breakdown of it.
And photographers tend to, like all human beings, have their own predilections and their own tastes and what they kind of like in girls, women, boys, whatever. I like cool girls. I like girls who, when photographed, appear self-reliant, self-sufficient. They're not there to appease the gaze of a man or a woman or whatever. They're self-contained and independent, and that for me is interesting.
And how often do you get to actually call the shot for who's going to be in front of your camera on a given assignment?
I think as an editorial photographer, you get a lot of freedom to make the choice.
And what percentage, say, of the assignments?
I don't know. Mostly you would. I would expect my voice as the photographer who has to captain this bloody ship and bring in the goods. To have the last say.
But what
because at the end of the day, I have to do it.
Yeah, but what about the person who's actually footing the bill? I mean, how often do they say, no, this is what I want?
Well,
I'm just curious.
that's the difference between advertising.
And it's a question of trust and
editorial. The photographer is the one I listen to.
So it gets a little dicier when you get into advertising.
Yes, of course. And the photographer themselves is, as I said before on the last podcast, the photographer is a service provider. He is at the service of the client's vision and delivering a job.
And again, that's a fine line that a photographer has to navigate, because I've seen great photographers almost kind of lose their edge a little bit around a big paying client because they're waiting for the client to call the shot. I think confidence is really important for a photographer. And when a photographer doesn't know to call the shot, I think it says to everyone that he's not confident in it, so everybody loses confidence. I love it when a photographer can just like kind of not stand up to a client, but stand his own ground and be like, nah, I've seen it. We've got the shot. Because then the power shifts back into his court and you can, again, trust him to like lead the way and have the vision.
You said his, and I guess
I did. You're right.
I want to get to
well, it's because I'm Sahel with my
No, I get it. I didn't want to call you.
You are right. You're
but I
right.
do want to get to that the distinction maybe and talk about women photographers and how that might change the
it's
dynamic.
been, even
of
you were
that.
talking about he when you were saying photography.
That's
There's
true.
been a lot of
Did I say that?
yeah.
Even though
I'm
I
not
still
listening to
like
you,
you.
so it doesn't-
I happened to pick up on. I did happen to pick up on.
Okay.
That's
No,
interesting.
it's been she and he in general, but understandable, and it's not. I didn't mean
Yeah,
to call
yeah,
anybody.
That's
out.
right.
It
And
was just
there's
to get
there's
to the
he and
point
he a
of-
lot as well. You know, there are lots of men photographers who only photograph men or prefer to photograph men.
I did want to jump on a quick point that was made about working with the model and the photographer. As the model, and this idea of the gaze that you brought up, do you feel that you're being looked at and gazed on when you're the model on set, or do you feel you're looking back when you're, or
yeah,
you try
it's
to
very
look
much,
back?
Yeah, I feel like I'm looking back. I've never really felt subjectified on set. I think you carry your own power as the model, and I think you're very much. I mean, it is true. You're standing there, and there can sometimes be 20 people staring at you and staring at the monitors.
And the job description almost boils down to someone who is watched.
Yeah, of course.
A model is someone who is looked at.
But
so I've had instances where the model has actually said, I don't feel comfortable being looked at, or I don't feel comfortable with everyone around looking at me.
Yeah.
But again, the job is that a whole room is assessing you and trying to, because there are different departments in a photo shoot, and everyone has their part to play.
Right.
And so all of those gazes are professional, important ones, making decisions about that end result and how that model looks in those clothes.
I mean, I can imagine it unnerving some for sure. I think for me, I just literally step into my model shoes essentially, and I know what I give, I know what I bring to the table, and you have to stand in that certainty. A photographer can unravel you a little bit if their communication and their attitude or their, whatever on set is not collaborative and you're not working as a team. And I think that's when you can start to feel you want to work.
Let's talk about it. Yeah, we're here.
And positivity.
Yeah.
Again,
It's
going back
huge.
to this idea that
It's huge.
the photographer is sort of defining how the atmosphere of that studio is going. And there's playing music, there's having a team who are very relaxed. Let's talk now about the huge importance of the team and hair and makeup, who are, the sort of de facto psychologists, masseurs,
and
the
they
fluffers
can
of the industry, who are making the girl feel really good at the beginning of
do
the
you
day.
use the let's say the hair and makeup person as a go-between sometimes if you want to say, hey,
Sometimes.
talk to the photographer
If the
about such and such?
photographer's not, some days you'll just have days where the photographer's really not on anyone's side. And everyone gets a little bit in the same boat of like, oh my God, this is exhausting, or this is really hard work. And that's when the hair and makeup will check in and be like, are you okay? Are you doing all right? Do you need something? And they do kind of become your team. That's rare and it's unusual. And I don't think sometimes those photographers stay around, but I think it's the photographers that can empower a girl and be on the same team as a girl, because you are in it together, you're creating something together, and you need each other. There's no one or the, one might be enormously powerful or enormously famous and popular, but at the end of the day, if either one of you was to walk off set, for a while, there's going to be no photos.
The great English model, Erin O'Connor, has a lovely interview that I encourage your listeners to go and watch on YouTube. Nick Knight, the great Nick Knight photographer, has a website called showstudio.com. Please go on that. Go on his YouTube channel. And on there, he has a series of interviews called Subjective. Look for Subjective, showstudio.com on YouTube. And there are interviews with Nick and great models. And they go back through their work together. And Nick will ask them, what was that like and what was happening at the time. And Erin describes working with the legend, probably up there as number 1 or number 2. It's between Avedon and Penn, of the greatest fashion photographers who ever lived. And she describes working with Avedon. Obviously, he was older. He was in his 70s, sprightly, energetic. And she said that she was charmed to the point of really fancying him because of the complicity that he was able, this sort of naughty boy complicity between him that he fostered between himself and the model. It was, as Jayne was saying, they were in it together.
Yeah.
They were the team. We have the power. Let's use it
Well, what are
together.
your tools then? What do you do? I mean, what's your thing when it comes to
tools.
pulling
gonna
things out of
expose-
Aside
models?
from the Avedon mask.
I tend to be, as you might have guessed, quite expressive. So that can be a double-edged sword, because sometimes I felt that too many words is actually not what it's about. So that in itself is a fine line, because if you're too in your head, if you're too intellectual, if you're too descriptive, sometimes the model might not get it. It might go over their heads. So I think it's all about intuition, and again, it goes back to the social skills of what makes a human being successful in life or not. What are the successful people are people. The fashion industry it's a people industry. And so the people who get on, who understand, who are shrewd, who are political, who are sensitive, who are all of those things, who are powerful, who know how to use power to their advantage and getting the best for everybody. I always think I'm there to make everyone look good at the end of the day. That is my job. That's what I.
But on a more specific level,
with.
if you want to get models to turn her head or his head or adjustments of body and position
I
and
will
movements,
say, move your head, and we can talk. We can actually.
I mean,
and the manipulation thing.
Yeah.
Also, that when is it appropriate to be actually hands-on with the model, and I will always say, forgive me, but would you mind my manipulating your hand and moving your hand here? And invariably the model says yes, instead of me taking it as read that I'm able to intrude onto her personal
sometimes
space.
a photographer will do it, and I love that. That's always my favorite when they come up, he come up, and they're like, try like this, and they'll lie there and they'll spread out, and it's always hilarious. And I love it when a digitech goes and takes a photo of the photographer doing
position,
it.
right.
And that animation's really fun. You can be very literal with a girl. I mean, I can give you do's and don'ts that I find personally help or really shut down a photo shoot.
Please
go on then.
Yeah.
I think communicate and encourage are really important. I remember one of my early beauty shoots was a photographer called Frédéric Farr in Paris, and he's like almost 80s style, and that he's like, oh my God, beautiful. Oh, it's incredible. It's too much. But he makes you feel exquisite and extraordinary, and your photos come out the same. When you're working with a photographer that's giving you constant feedback, like, that's gorgeous, that's gorgeous. And when you do something that looks great, encourages it. Oh, I love that. I love that when you were at this angle, it really, really worked. It's giving you constant feedback, and you know what you're doing right, and you know the angle to move in. Or they go and review the screen, they come back and when you were like kind of in this and you're looking here and there's that kind of energy, that was really working. And
How
let's go
often
back
do they
to
call
that.
you over to look at a screen if it's tethered and say, do this again? Or
They might. They might.
I do always.
Okay.
Yeah. It's different. Again, I would say different photographers work differently. Some never like you to see a picture. I find that really unhelpful. But then again, I've heard of girls that go up to the screen and will demand certain things be deleted. They'll go through them with the techie and be like, nah, some very big girls do this. And I'm torn, because I'm like, well, if I did that, then it would mean that there's never a shot that I don't like out there in the world, which has got to be great. But at the same time, I think you can learn a lot. Sometimes I go up and see something on screen and I'm like, oh, I see that, how the skirt's doing that. All right, that didn't work. And it's an easy, immediate kind of getting it. But there's things a photographer can do to really shut you down, and it's unhelpful. Like if a photographer says no to something. I worked with a photographer once where he would just, certain things he'd go, no, rather than shooting. And I wanted to be like, dude, this is digital. It costs you nothing. Like, okay, it was different when it was film. Like, film was precious. We had, 12 shots a roll or 20, whatever. And there you had to be a little bit more precise. But this is digital. Reel one off and delete it. Doesn't matter if you don't like it. But his constant no. You get to a point where you're like, I can't move anymore. And that's really unhelpful. And also the feedback photographers sometimes give. Sometimes you'll get, and this comes down to ego, some people just want to have a say. I've been modeling for a long time. I understand clothes. I know my body. I know I'm good at what I do. So sometimes there isn't all that much feedback I need. And occasionally I'll work with a photographer who just needs to make a change or needs to say something. I worked with someone recently who just kept saying, relax the arms, relax the arms. My arms were down by my side. I was literally like, I don't know how much more relaxed. And the crew were laughing. The crew were offset laughing. And it became this joke between us all, relax your arms, relax. Because there was no relaxing of the arms. And I actually never saw, it was with a regular client I never saw that photographer again. And I think he needed to have a say where there wasn't a say. So all of these things can really change a dynamic.
And you had brought up the subject of physical contact and touch. And Jayne, can you kind of talk on that subject a bit? When, how, how much?
I mean, I don't know if I'm giving people too much credit, but I actually think it's really obvious. And I think we all know when we're overstepping a line. Mm-hmm. I have had photographers come up to me and correct an item of clothing or move a hair, and they've done it with such authority and comfort and respect that never have I felt like a line has been crossed. And I've had other photographers, that make out like they need to correct the way the lace is lying on the bra, and already they know and that that's not right, and so I'll just be like, oh, I got it, and I'll do it myself. And I think my self-assertion keeps from ever crossing a line. But I think we all know when we're in gray area, and I would just say, just have respect and err on the side. Or even if you say, oh, can you just move that, or your bra strap's not laying long, or even if you're doing nudes and you're like, can you just move the hair? If you say, oh yeah, not quite right, then ask permission. Do you mind if I just move the hair for you? Because I can see it. Just always err on a side of absolute respect. And you will build trust. Like, I have photographers I shoot nudes with regularly, and never, ever, ever have I felt uncomfortable in their company, nor do I not trust, ever. And it's such a code of conduct, a way of conducting yourself, not trying anything.
And how would a photographer bring out more sexuality? I mean, what phrases or even examples of positioning and things like that?
I mean, again, this is what a model will bring. Some will have it naturally and ooze sex, and some just won't.
And that's that.
Yeah.
I mean, you tend to cast the model appropriately. Mm-hmm. So if it's a sexy shoot, you need the girl to be hot.
Yeah.
Cast a hot girl. There's also something that's happening in the industry that has made it easier for models, and that is that we've seen the rise of the referencing. The photographic, this is what we're going for. And that's sometimes true. A brazen showing another photo shoot from another magazine. Yeah. And these are the kinds of things we're going for. There's no shame now. Probably in my day when I started out, you wouldn't dream of putting another photographer's picture on a polyboard to show...
You're so right, actually. I've never
You're
thought
cheating.
about that.
What? You're a plagiarist. You're a copycat.
And now you walk into a wall of photos.
And now it's just taken for granted that this is what we're kind of... And so in that respect, models maybe have it easier
I would say so.
than they did in past generations where there was no reference and it was just purely about making that picture in that moment.
Yeah.
Okay. So then can we talk a little bit about how you would maybe influence a photographer to... get a better shot, or kind of the specific ins and outs of this. My favorite,
I think I can usually feel the vibe that they're going for, feel an angle. My favorite is when they're discussing just to do it. And the number of times, if I had $1 for every time I'd done this and it worked, I would be a wealthy woman. And the number of times I just go and lean a certain way, or let the chop drop a certain way, and just act like I'm hanging out. And very quickly they're like, don't move. That's it. Mm-hmm. And in my head, I'm like, I know. But, things like that. You do have ownership of yourself, and the set is yours. So move around, be free, try something. There's usually the safety shots, as I call them, where you kind of, the things that need to be done. If a clothing is really important and this quirky zipper is really a thing, yeah, sure, angle that towards the camera. Be aware of your product. But then there's this element of play that you can start bringing in, and you can start, making the clothes move and moving yourself and being more in the moment, because that became a real thing as well, the in-between shots, like the moments. So I think a sense of play and a sense of just doing it and something will happen.
And my favorite models have always been those girls who's had the attitude of, okay, come on, let's do this. And they just do it. They give it to you.
Right. Yeah.
So you're just a happy recipient of great work that's going on, and you're just recording
You're just a remote trigger.
You're recording
But that's
it. and
also
they
a
do
great
it.
photographer. A great photographer, when he sees that a girl is doing it, and like I said, doesn't feel like they have to change something just to have a say, and is like, awesome, killing it, I'm loving it, this is amazing, this is so good, and then add a little input. But a photographer, they can let a girl run with what she has and use the space and is like on the page with you.
That's great. That's
creating art.
one of the the great highs of when that's happening.
That feels so good.
Nothing beats having the other person doing all the work too.
Yeah, I know.
Right?
And it's all gifts. You're
Yeah.
just receiving these gifts from the
And
universe.
when will you, as the photographer, reach, ask the model for input? Do you ever do that? Would you say, what do you think, or does it ever
nice.
come to that kind of conversation, or is it more in the interaction?
It's nice, as I said, that for the model to get the feedback of what the actual image is looking like on the screen. Now we have screens, and we'll discuss this, the difference between tethered computers, instant feedback. The model gets to see the actual shot itself, as opposed to back in the day with film, where the photographer had much more control and say, because there wasn't a team standing around a computer
No one
with a
else could see,
300% zoom tool that they could scrutinize every little bit. And
You're
so
tethered.
I'm
tethered all the
tethered
time,
only
or-
because I'm quick, and therefore I like to see it as quickly as possible, so we can be efficient and go on to the next
Keep the
shot.
momentum
That's the
going.
norm now, right? Most shoots.
I would say
Or
so.
not. It depends. Physically on a beach or whatever,
Yeah.
you might not be tethered, in which case you're just shooting to card, and then you give the card to the
Yeah.
The DigiGuy.
The DigiGuy.
But that is always happening. It's rare when you're going to have a shoot now where
You
there
don't
won't
see.
be a moment where you'll go back and look before you continue.
Having said all this, I believe we're right now in a period of change back to film. And there are not just editorial photographers and magazines that are insisting that film be shot again, but also advertising clients, art directors, creative directors who are foregoing the certainty of shooting digital for the whatever it is of the purity, the authenticity, the film, feel, or whatever it is, because I can dispute this. I have I'm on the side of digital, personally, not that I haven't grown up shooting film, but I believe that there's a bit of a myth that post can't reproduce the film.
Yeah, that kind of gets me to another question for Jayne to some degree, and or both of you. Do you ever offer input on something that doesn't have to do with the model-photographer relationship, maybe the lighting, the location, or even the clothing if you're talking to the designer? And how do you accept that if a model says, you know what, I think you may want to move that light or something along those lines?
And how dare a model know about lighting?
I can't imagine a model needs to tweak your lighting. There is a huge power that comes with lighting, and I've mentioned this before. You can make or break a girl with lighting, and you can have the best hair and makeup and terrible lighting. This is where it's interesting when you say it's going back to film, because that's going to sort the talent out pretty fast in regards to how you light. I've walked onto sets where I've been like, what is going on here? And then had one photo taken and been like, oh, wow, that's me. Like, wow, you don't even need anything. You can sculpt a girl's face and create a body with incredible lighting. And in the same vein, you can absolutely butcher it. So I have been in situations where the lighting just isn't right for the job, or they're trying to do something. I feel like it's come down now, but I really saw a rise of this like Instagram star photographer. And it would be like these cool people that were doing these cool things on their Instagram. Color seemed to be a thing for a while. And clients would pull them in for pretty big jobs, trying to capture that kind of cool element. And that's all well and good, but there are certain classic rules of lighting that are very hard. One thing you would have heard me say with my interview with Michael, I did one job, it was a lingerie job, and it was a big client and an important client to me. And the first shot was like this down light with a blue gel and then a silver reflector bouncing back up. And I remember getting on there and being like, well, how's that going to work? Like, that's not going to do anything right. So we shot for a bit. And then I said, do you mind if I see? And I looked on screen and it was awful, really, really awful. And the client was all there like, And I could see the client were looking at the screen and looking at me. And that's what's really hard because clients don't always have the vision. Like a photographer knows what he's capable of and a model knows what can be done. And you have a whole portfolio which speaks for what you can do. But the client doesn't always have that vision. Same with makeup artists. They have the same struggle. A client will, hire a girl with very little hair and then give like a Brigitte Bardot shot to the hair guy and be like, oh, girl, and say, create this. And he's like, do you not see? She has no hair. So this is a common problem. But that it just wasn't working. And the other girl that I was working with, she was absolutely gorgeous. She had rich black skin. So of course it's going to translate so differently with a blue gel. Me, I'm English. I'm very, very white and like really, really reflective. So a blue gel just wasn't working. And after kind of blundering through about 4 or 5 shots and seeing that the client wasn't happy, that's when I spoke up and I said to him, like, I don't understand this lighting. Why are you lighting me from above? That's not going to work for lingerie. And he was kind of like, right, where should it be? And that's when I was like, all right, he's also figuring it out. And I said, just knock it to the side a little bit. You're going to create that beautiful line of the abs. You're going to like make the boobs look good rather than saggy. You're going to contour the face. I was like, give me a beauty dish. Give me something to make my skin pop. Blue is not going to work for white skin. And he was humorous about it. He was like, yeah, do it. And he said to his assistant, do what she said. And I was like, you're getting flare from, there was like a light that was hitting a window behind me. And I was like, flag that. It's coming up on the, and he just couldn't see it. And he actually ran with it and was very, very grateful, I think. Because I think he was uncomfortable. He was like this upshoot, cool photographer. He landed a pretty big gig. And the client was like, So, you just have to feel it out.
You mentioned you're watching the client looking at the screen.
Yeah.
You can tell they're not happy.
Yeah.
Were they making eye contact with you? Was there any kind of like a communication going on between you and them?
I went over there and said, how is it looking? How are you feeling? And they were quite like, oh yeah,
they were polite.
They were polite. Well, one of them even said to me, I'm confused because I'm looking at you and you're looking great. She's like, this isn't you, but but on screen it's just not translating. And that was the point where I went and spoke to the photographer.
That's when you became an adult.
Yeah, well,
with the adult of the situation.
There is an element of respect, and I really do respect everyone's craft. And I've worked with photographers where I'm like, oh no, don't do that. That's not going to work. And then seeing the photo and being like, I stand corrected, So I'm always open to that realm of play, and that is what makes creating so exciting when you have that moment where you're like, dang, did not see that coming. That's awesome.
And how long did it take you to kind of get to the point where you were comfortable offering this type of advice or input?
I suppose.
How common is that?
I started in film. So in film, you don't have a clue until it's published. So I was blind to it for the longest time. And then when digital came in, that was all very cool and very interesting. I guess it was probably once I'd been modeling for about 8 or 9 years. And I also had the early, things were lit differently with film. And you had those windows. Now you have a lot more room to play with digital, and there's post-production is as important as the photography skills itself. I don't know. I think sooner or later you just realize that you're protecting your own image, and it's not in your best interest to not speak up. There's always a way of doing things.
Is that kind of rare for models, would you say? I mean, how
I don't know.
common?
I think you have a whole spectrum. I know a lot of girls that speak up and do things I would never dare do, and then others that just don't. So I think you really have a spectrum.
And on the photographer side?
Well, I think something might be lost in the digital realm because of the group around the computer, as opposed to back in film days where it was the photographer and the model, and that was it.
Yeah, the client was
and it
just
was only
naked.
really the photographer looking through the viewfinder and knew what the shot was looking like. I mean, obviously it was the day of Polaroids, but they were sort of general lighting,
only
and
the photographer
this is
can
what
call
it
the shot
looks
then.
like. And then yes, exactly. And there were great photographers like Helmut Newton who would make a point of never showing the Polaroid to the either celebrity or the big model, because you it's a power thing, and you have all of that control then. The buck really stops with you.
And have you been in a situation where you were offered advice from a model and you either, how did you react?
I don't know. I think the shoots tend to go well enough in terms of the shoot itself to warrant any kind of intervention by the model.
What about your crew? Do you have a say? I mean,
Yeah,
do you work with the regular folks?
Yes, crew, as I said, hair and makeup really important. The hairstylist, the personality of the hairstylist is also very important. They're the guys who are literally on set with the model, who is touching her at the last moment before the picture is taken.
Sometimes they have the hardest job.
They have the hair is always blamed for the picture. It doesn't matter.
It's actually true.
There's kind of two things I wanted to get to, and one is the idea of like the rhythm of a shoot. I mean, how long? I mean, I guess there's all different varieties, but you can say that a regular shoot is a day's work. And how do you feel like, okay, I need the first hour to just get into it, and then the best things happen after a couple hours or at the end of the day?
Yeah,
or
you probably don't
how's that
start with your
rhythm
favorite
work?
shot. Don't start with your favorite shot because it will take a bit.
Well, there are two things I'd like to say, and that is my favorite part of the shoot is that moment before the model goes on set, where the whole team is doing last minute adjustments and the shoes are being put on, and there's something really quite beautiful in that focus, that concentration of people who love what they do and who just are focusing on this human being and trying to make them as beautiful as possible. And I really love that Quiet Before the Storm. There's the second day, because often it's rarer now, but I'm still very lucky enough to have a couple of days to shoot a story. And there's the second day afternoon drag, where the energy is gone. You've taken a lot of great pictures by that time. The end is in sight, so there's a relief. But there's just that little bit of, we've got to get another one
you can
now.
have creativity gridlock as well.
And how are we going to better the 8 that we did yesterday? And I think there's just a sort of, there's an ebb and flow, and it's a kind of little dip after lunch kind of thing.
But as the director, if you will, on set, that's your job to kind of
It
understand
is my
that,
job,
feel that, and work with
I've
it.
got to eat something, or something's got to happen. And usually it's just that the pictures are great again. I mean, it's really that feedback loop that you're all doing a good job and that it's all working.
I think you can control it a little bit with outfits. Like I say, don't start with your best one because you're always kind of figuring it out.
Yeah, the difficult outfit. Oh my God, that is probably...
There's always one outfit that's a pain in the ass.
That's probably
also
one of the biggest things.
The beauty
Jayne.
shot. Quite often the beauty shot is saved till the end and the makeup artist is like, why now? But there's like a sweet spot when the makeup's kind of absorbed in, the hair's starting to look really good. It's not looking just done, but it's like getting, it's looking good. And that's usually as you're charging towards lunch around then, that's a great time to swoop in and do a beauty spot, and also be spontaneous with beauty spots because you can get really cool things. Like
You're already
in the
warmed
moment.
up at that point too. You're moving.
Yeah. I think if you start with a beauty shot, the girl can be looking a little crispy just because it's all fresh and all the powder's just gone on, the hair has just been whatever. But also when you say like the second day drag, I've always found it helpful. There's usually 1 or 2 outfits that you're like, wow, I can't wait to shoot that. Gonna save that for the second day, the afternoon of the second day, or that 3 p.m. time if you've only got one day. Because 3 p.m., you've had lunch, you're losing your momentum a little bit. Save that shot for them because it will bring you back alive and you can really create and do something
That's good advice.
diverse
Yeah. Quick question about... when you're shooting uptight, like I guess a beauty shot of just the face, do you direct differently in the sense of eye movement, slight subtle turns of the head compared to when it's a wide shot and you have
or an
a body?
attitude? Talking about attitude is a big one.
And photographically speaking, of course, we're at that sort of almost macro range. We're close up. We might have 100 macro lens on, and the depth of focus is commensurately much shallower.
Right.
So the model has to be aware that there is a plane of focus that her eyes on, and not to move too far forward
And
or
also,
back.
And you explain
if you're
that?
doing beauty,
I think they kind of. I always say don't move too much. I mean, it's
don't
as
move
simple
too
as
much.
that.
Keep it simple.
but I think also we can't, like if you're doing a beauty shot, say I've got rings and things on both hands and I'm kind of going in for one of these, there will be a point where you're like, I just feel like a knob right now. I'm like, a photographer can see that and he'll guide you, like bring the little hand just below the eye, move, this, you're blocking the light, and only he can control that. So I think those micro movements are, good to direct. But otherwise it's pretty much energy and attitude, wouldn't you say?
Yeah.
You touched on it pretty well, Jayne, when we were talking about the interaction with a photographer, but do we want to talk a little bit about Time's Up and Me Too, Model Alliance, and any other issues regarding that?
I think we have to.
I'd be really happy to hear what you have to say.
It's the big thing of our times, and I personally think it's a long time coming. Power corrupts is a truism that's as relevant to
I think it's
fashion as any other
really,
career.
really,
It's human
really
nature
sensitive
thing, unfortunately.
topic right now, and I think it's a very fine line. I've had this conversation with a lot of people, and I think here's where it's really hard, because there are a lot of men that push the boat out there and they use their power. And there are a lot of, young girls, young guy models that are so hungry for this career, and it means so much to them that they are pushing their own boundaries to try and, get ahead or whatever. So you're in this really, really fragile terrain. But I do think, and this is where it becomes such a fine line, you do have photographers which are innately sexual and love the female form, and that is the beauty of their photography. So I think it comes down to a lot of dynamics on set. I think girls really need to know what their fine line is and not cross it. I often, same with when you're having a conversation with somebody, I always think to myself, if this was to be played back in front of people, would I be ashamed? My mum always used to say, don't say anything about somebody that you wouldn't be willing for them to hear. And I think similarly on set, imagine everything was being filmed and was like on a permanent playback. If you're doing things that are giving you this like uncomfortable feeling in your gut, or someone's pushing you over some sort of line, really listen to your body and have the wherewithal to say, I'm not comfortable with that. And for me, I've never had a problem saying no. I will just get up and be like, yeah, I'm going to go grab a snack. Like I will just divert the conversation, the situation. I won't put myself in it. And therefore I've never had that pushed upon me. I've never had anybody do anything like uncomfortable. I've had photographers I've said I won't work with before. But in that very moment, I'll be like, yeah, no, I'm done with this. Like,
you mean work with again after you've worked with them once before?
So I do think it's this kind of awareness, and I think it really comes down to
somewhat willing to jeopardize your own career, quote unquote.
It is, and maybe my career's been jeopardized. Who knows? I think a team needs to speak up too. Like,
that's
I
right.
think that's one
there
thing
are enablers in the industry.
I wish more people would shine a light on. Oh yeah, you're always going to have people that play with power, and you're always going to have people that are really hungry for something and willing to compromise themselves. It's the people on set that stand by and say nothing. And I get it. Everyone is holding on to a job and a status and an opportunity that is very, very precious. But when one person stands up and speaks or backs up the girl or takes the girl aside and say, hey, are you comfortable? Because if this is making you uncomfortable, like I'll be right there next to you on set.
Do you think that is something that might, in the sense of going forward, and would it be advantageous if, let's say, a group like Model Alliance or another said, you know what, a model needs an advocate on every set? I mean, of course, there's money and there's issues and there's all kinds of things, but I mean, is there something you can think of with your experience on set that would could lead to less of this?
I mean, perhaps, certainly young girls. I think girls should be allowed to opt in whether they want a chaperone or not. I know girls who've had a chaperone for many years. I never needed one myself. But for some girls that don't have, this ability to speak up or are a little bit shy or feel like are easily pushed, maybe an agency, could flag up and be like, this, let's chaperone her for this. Or if an agency knows that one of their girls that is young is going to be working with the photographer. I mean, these photographers have reputations that long precede this Me Too movement. So then maybe an agency can be like, you know what, so-and-so, maybe she should be chaperoned for that. I think that does happen with good agencies. I mean, it's a very big topic.
There's obviously a lot more we could continue with.
But time's up, literally.
Time is kind of up. All right.
Before we sign off, Michael, where should our listeners go if they wish to see more of your work? And is there anything else you're coming down the pike that you want to plug?
I like Instagram, I must say. I think all photographers have to have Instagram. So you can check out Michael Sanders Studio on Instagram. I have a YouTube account where I interview models on my Go See show on YouTube. That's Michael Sanders Studio also. And a website, michaelsandersgosees.com.
You're an excellent interviewer, I have to say.
Thank you. That's really what I want.
That's what it was. Watch it. Okay, Jayne, also, it was a pleasure having you on the show today.
Thank you.
Where can our listeners catch up with your adventures?
I'm on Instagram also. Personally, I am Gem48, JEM48, which is
Okay.
my initials, Jayne Elizabeth Moore. IMG, I'm obviously on their website. And yeah, and if you're interested in jewelry, I'm a jeweler as well, and that's TERNYC. So
Say that again.
Say that again. Say that again.
Do that. Plug that.
TERNYC. It's the Instagram handle and the website. So
And
go.
that is the English
Thorn of an English
Thorn
Rose.
of an
That's
English
right.
Rose.
Very cool.
That's me.
Very cool.
And on behalf of Michael, Jayne, Jason, John, and myself, thank you so much for joining us today.